Well, hi there everybody, and coming back today with the world famous, of course, world record quad, the little QX80 that managed to get to 521 meters and back again. However, doesn't roll off the tongue very well, does it? 521 meters. I'd much prefer it to get to a kilometer, but as we saw in this setup, it really barely makes it. It's heavy, and so the battery drains very quickly. It's carrying a lot, and so what I want to do is rip it out and get some new components in there that are hopefully going to be lighter and work a bit better. I haven't got all these components now. The reason I've decided to do this now is because I need to steal this camera to put it on a little indoor racing frame. So I'll rip these bits off, but there's going to be a big jump cut to the next bit. But in the meantime, this is the before picture. Here's what it did look like. And I'll now go and get it ripped apart, and I'll come back at some point with the after story so you can see what stuff I did put on it and see if it gets any better. But for that point, jump cut, and we've jumped cut to here, about a week or two later, I can't remember. And finally we've got all the bits together. The old camera is on the nat frame, which I've got a video about, feel free to watch it. And this is the QX80 frame, which is just this tiny little weird square of carbon, which is hard to think it actually went that far. Anyway, in terms of replacement bits, some things stay the same. The F3 controller with the beeper on board, and I need that beeper. The only thing I'm going to do here is upgrade to the latest version of Betaflight, because this thing wasn't flying particularly well, and it might be the characteristics of the quad, it might be because it was unbalanced in some way. We'll figure that bit out. A big change, this was my depinned X4R receiver. This is going to be replaced by the XM Plus, which is much smaller and much lighter. And I just did a video about how to flash this, since I had to get the EU version, which I've now flashed to the international firmware. The old motors here, nothing particularly wrong with them as far as I can tell, but they seem to be struggling. These are going to be replaced by these Racestar ones. I think the RPM's a little bit quicker, but mainly they're red, so they must be much better. That's like a Ferrari type colour, much sort of go faster thing. Yeah, and the last bit was the camera, which I'm putting the TX02, is that what it's called? Yeah, which is a 200 milliwatt system, because this isn't going to be an indoor one, and the 25 milliwatts was causing some breakups at the end of the range there. So hopefully the 200 is going to go, well, at least double the distance, if not further, and that should get me to a kilometre. But the main thing, of course, is the LiPo didn't last, so hopefully these will lighten the loads and be able to spread it a little better, so hopefully make the whole thing more efficient. But let's put it together and see how it goes. I'm still not so confident about this frame. I think it's just too compact, and as I've said, like 100 mil, below 100 mil, this could do going out just 10 or 15 millimeter might make the difference. But let's try this first. Let's put it together and we'll see what happens. And here it is, all finished off and finally done. It's actually finished a good few weeks ago, but the weather's been all so cold and windy that I really hadn't had a chance to try this out yet. Especially these batteries do suffer from the cold, it would seem, these little 1Ss. But it doesn't look remarkably different from how it did. It's obviously lost the great big receiver in there. It's got the little, I forgot what it's called now, the XM Plus. Is it the XM Plus? I can't remember. The lovely red motors. And with the FrSky antennas, I'm just letting them hang. So I thought, in order to put anything to steady them, that's more weight, and weight we can try to avoid. Now the other thing I've tried doing with this, just hovering in the room here, is seeing how much time I can get out of it. And does the PWM motor rate make a difference, as I've seen this mentioned several times in forums about brushed motors. So I've tried this out. It was set to 16,000 by default, and on this very battery, which seemed absolutely rubbish last time I tried it in the field, 4 minutes 46, which also happens to be the best time I've got. So I tried it at 32,000, it's about the same. I tried it at 8,000, it's 3 seconds less. So for me, there wasn't much in it. But what I'm intending to do now is, I'm not going for any records. I just want to see how it flies, because Betaflight got updated. It feels a little bit steadier in hover now. I want to try maybe a 500-meter run or something, because 4 minutes 46 on just a hover does not translate into 4 minutes 46 of forward flight. So I haven't got that much time to go out and come back again. So what I want to do is find out how much time I've got and where I can get to in that time, and how we go outside before I try thinking how far I can go, because it's going to come down to a calculation, if this is working perfectly, of I've got this far and I can do this speed, and that pretty much is going to be my limit of what I can do. But let's take it out and try it, because I'm hoping it's going to be a lot more stable than last time. Jump cut, join me in a minute. Horrendous wind noise. What I'm saying here is I've just taken a QX80, I've flown it around the field a couple of times, and the flight time seemed good and it seemed stable. So I'm going to try taking it out to the end of the field and see how far I can get. So let's go for it. Right, we're off. And if that doesn't quite sync up with the external footage you saw, this is actually the flight after that one, which managed to go even better. But you'll notice immediately, if you saw the old video of me trying to fly this as far as I can, how much smoother this is. And it's a world of difference. I'm not sure if the change of the receiver or losing the weight or installing the latest Betaflight, I assume it was probably all of them. But this thing just flies so much better now. It was just pretty effortless. I went for it and I just pointed in that direction. Throttle is around 60% to get this. There was a few little dips because we're flying into wind and we had to fight a bit more. But you'll see that the video signal's holding up pretty well, and it should do. It's on 200 milliwatts. And it's not getting battered about by the wind, and the wind was, you know, relatively strong then. You could hear it in the wind noise. But this is the right to the end of the field, way past where I got last time and where I was actually trying to get to. And I fly on past this, stopping only when I hit some trees and thinking, well, that's about it really. I didn't want to fly over trees because I'm always thinking about what happens when or if it goes down. What's my recovery option? Because at the moment it's turn on the beeper and walk in a diagonal line. I like to at least think I've got some sort of way of finding it again, and so flying over trees is a bit of a silly for me. But we're with the wind now, and you see we're absolutely flying back. Absolutely no hassle at all. It was pretty handy going into wind because I knew if there was anything less than 2 minutes, I would fly back without a problem. And it took what, a minute to get there, a minute to get back. Really easy. Nothing to it. And I've got extra battery, and I just start flying around, having some fun. Although the handling is vastly improved, there's still a couple of things that this QX80 doesn't like to do. It doesn't like these really big turns, and it doesn't like descending into its own prop wash. But it now doesn't mind doing the odd flip for me, so I was quite down on it last time, but I actually like this little thing again now. I like the fact that I don't really have to think about it. I can just fly this out relatively good distances and it will just behave and come back to me. And 4 minutes out of a LiPo is pretty damn good going, I think. So let's get this in for a landing, and then I'll show you how I measured my distance and exactly how far I got. And you should be able to see why I can't really go any further unless I want to start flying over trees, which I don't. But here we are, coming back and trying a spot landing. Boom, got it. And here's my distance. I went back over my video feed and I double checked everything against landmarks lining up with bushes, and I'm very confident that this is an accurate measurement. If anything, I'm slightly conservative, but pretty happy that that's 650 meters. But as far as this field goes, that is about my max. That's the furthest I can get into the fields, and I kind of hit trees one end, and if I moved back behind the trees on the other end, then I'd just be more trees and I'd have to go so high just to keep my video signal there. So what I need to do to get my kilometre is find another nice long strip somewhere which doesn't have too many hazards to get lost in.
So the question of whether it will make a kilometre there and back is an interesting one. It's kind of borderline looking at the speed it will go and the amount of time it will stay in the air. So the very first flight I did, I flew around kind of half of that field. There's a sort of natural barrier halfway along, and I'll show you this now, somewhat speeded up, else it's a bit dull. So I did a lap, and that was under 2 minutes, so I did another lap, and then I went out a bit and I sort of came back because I knew it was very, very close to the end of the LiPo. And then as I turned to come around after flying past myself, you'll see just here, the power starts to go and eventually the camera starts cutting out, and that was absolutely dead LiPo. What was interesting about this though is I measured it out in Google Earth using the path tool, and it came to about 2.2 kilometers. Now it's hard to say how accurate I'm getting because obviously I wasn't all the way out on the outside of the field, but it looks like with the right conditions you can just about squeeze 2 kilometers out of this thing. So I need to find the right area first off, and then I'll be going out there and I will be getting a kilometer out and back on this little quad. Quite how you can go further than that remains to be seen, but I want to get this kilometer, so I'm going to try for it next.
Now weirdly, I've sat by my phone for days now and there's still been no call from the Guinness Book of Records. Frustrating. So I've printed my own. Screw those guys. If they don't recognise it, I'll do it myself. Clearly it's just a bit of fun. And that's what this whole thing is. I'm not here saying, look at me, I'm the greatest. I can fly for ages in these little microquads. But I still got to get to that kilometre. The reason I do these sort of videos is to say, here's what I've done with this. Here's how it flew originally. Here's how it flies now, which is better. But if people want to take that and do some other things and make some other changes and then share that, we move forward again. That's what I really like about FPV. It's a community of people trying to drive the hobby forward, trying to do new things, and that's really exciting. So yeah, we take a little stupid quad and we try and fly at a big distance. Hopefully someone comes up and goes further. Anyway, next time, fingers crossed, we'll get a kilometre out of this little thing. Just need the right location, the right conditions, and a little bit of luck. But until that time, see you later.